Good morning and welcome to our first press conference of the new year. We are in what I affectionately call the echo chamber upstairs today, so if you hear a little background echo, it's not your phone, it's the room we're in. And we're actually using this room today because the two rooms downstairs that we normally use for a conference room or for the press conferences are being occupied by representatives from Wagner Engineering, which we recently voted to help us as we work towards leveraging our ARPA money and finding some of the best areas to potentially use the money for the city. And they are working out of two rooms in separate meetings. One where they're looking closely at infrastructure and stormwater. The other meetings are with planning and economic development. And the meetings are being, the folks that are in the meetings today are department heads within the city, representatives from the Redevelopment Authority, and groups like that. We'll continue to reach out to other citizens throughout the community for interviews. They'll also talk to the Board of Supervisors in the coming weeks, and I have notified all the state representatives representing our area in Jackson of the group and what we'll be doing in the coming weeks. So we're excited about having them on board and what that could potentially mean for the city. Couple things I wanted to mention too. I mentioned this at the council meeting last night, but I think it's good to remind everybody that the Probst Park survey is still up and will be available until Friday. We were having good turnout in the beginning, and I hope we'll have a good finish to having as many people as possible that'll give us their input on what they would like to see done at Probst Park in the future. That's a very important area for the city, and we're looking forward to getting more community feedback. There has been an uptick in COVID in the area and across the state and across the nation. I mentioned last night that the Columbus Lowndes Public Library has closed for the rest of the week due to people being diagnosed with COVID and then other folks being exposed to it. They thought it would be wise to, out of extreme caution, to close for the rest of the week. There are other groups in town that have also notified me that they're not having in-house meetings right now until the numbers seem to change, hopefully in the right direction in the coming days. The council did vote last night to, for the near future at least, not to have people in the council meetings. The only folks that will be attending the council meetings going forward until further notice will be the mayor and city council and employees that are there to help us stream it live. I noticed on some of the comments from Facebook last night that we were having some technical difficulties again. We apologize for that, but when you're trying to stream this information out, you're going to have times where the sound may fade in and out. That is not intentional by any stretch. We also have the meetings in full afterwards, where you can go to the Facebook page, or even to what's the other area we have one, Joe? On YouTube, where you can go and watch the meetings and be able to hear everything. We apologize that we're in the situation where we're having to have meetings this way, but it's the circumstances that we're facing right now. One of the things that we talked about last night at the council meeting that I'm very excited about is the Mayor's Health Council. We had a representative speak, Ms. Eloise Smith. She is a community health director for this region for the Mississippi Department of Health. She reached out to me a while back with the idea of forming the Mayor's Health Council here. It will be the first one in the Golden Triangle. I take this very seriously. It's going to be an extension of what I started earlier with Walking with the Mayor, Healthy Conversations. The reason for that I am trying to walk with citizens across the city is that I want to be in their neighborhoods. I want to talk to them about the issues that they're facing directly, but I'm also wanting to encourage people to get out and exercise. So with this Mayor's Health Council, we will just do that. We will build a council. We'll have a volunteer who will be the director of it. If there's someone out there that hears this and is interested and has a background dealing in health issues and exercise, if they would like to be a part of this group, if they would please reach out to the mayor's office here. And we'll have more information on this in the coming days to make it easy for people to let us know if they would like to be a part of it. But partnering with the Mississippi Department of Health will give us opportunities for grant dollars that could help us in different areas throughout the city that we wouldn't have access to otherwise. So again, I'm very excited about this. We did go into executive session last night on a couple of matters, and I think it'll just be easier if I have our city attorney, Jeff Turnage, address those issues, and then you can ask questions of the media here in the room, and obviously folks that are watching. And then after Jeff gives us a report from what the mayor and council did in the executive session, I'll come back and take any questions about other issues that were discussed last night. Jeff?
Thank you, Mayor Gaskin. The City Council took up 3 matters in executive session, and I'm pleased to report the first one of those was to discuss the prospective sale of some real estate. 2 years ago or so, we were donated the property Woody's on the Water by John Young, and we have, through the Redevelopment Authority and through Councilman Jones, been trying to find a buyer. We started talking to local realtor Kay Regenball right before COVID hit, and she had a really interested person from the Gulf Coast who operated Shaggy's. But when COVID hit, that sort of fell off the radar, and he said he would maybe be interested later. And fortunately, he's still interested, and he submitted an offer to the city to acquire that property for $300,000. So that's a $300,000 profit, less some back taxes that were owed on the property when it was gifted to the city. So the council approved the mayor's signature on that contract on a 6-0 vote last night. For the purpose will be to operate a restaurant, seafood primarily, similar to a Shaggy's. I think he sold that franchise and has since operated a restaurant chain known as the Blind Tiger, and has worked with casinos on the coast as well. Has some property on Lake Catherine where he's operating not just a seafood restaurant, but a seafood and meat distribution center, so people can come down the 10-ton waterway and stop in and have a meal and maybe buy some seafood, fresh seafood they could take with them. I think it'll be a boom, and the council and the mayor did too, for the marina and the maybe lake lounge, as well as the core property right there at the vicinity. The next item they took up involved a disciplinary matter involving a member of the police department. This was a matter tabled from the prior meeting, and after following up on the things that they tabled it for, they determined to suspend the officer for a period of 10 days and give him 3 months probation for improper use of a municipal police car. And then the final matter of personnel involved job performance of a person in the court division, and the city council voted to appoint a special prosecutor to handle the case that Dennis Harmon was handling for the city in the Zach Player case, Roy Perkins. And that's all of it.
Thank you, Jeff. Do we have any questions from last night's meeting?
One that was submitted online was, what's the status on the pay raises? Because y'all went back and forth with, what's the status on that?
Right. The council discussed last night using a little over $500,000 that we have in the CARE fund for potential raises. At the prior council meeting, they had asked our city attorney to come back and look at, were there any legal issues with using that money. Jeff has determined that it is not, if it is not used as bonuses. So the idea is that we are considering adding the 75-cent raise across the board. One of the things that Jeff and our HR director, Pat Mitchell, had discovered as we were looking at this is just it's not an easy task to do because of all the issues that we talked about last night, the various overtime that some of our employees face, and just a myriad of, it's not as easy as adding 75 cents to a check. Again, I cautioned the council, and I will continue to, about using one-time money in this area. I was very straightforward in that I wanted everybody to understand that we are dedicated to increasing the pay of the positions across the city. There's no, we had planned to do that at the beginning of this fiscal year when we found the mistake in our budgeting, which to me is very cautionary. We've talked about that. It is not a secret in the community about the financial issues that the city has faced for many years. I think it's important that we keep that at the forefront when we're trying to make these decisions. It's not that we don't want to do this, but we want to do it properly. This money belongs to the citizens of Columbus, and I believe they want us to handle this with good stewardship. Now, what does that mean going forward? Well, last night we did not vote on using that money at this point, but what we're doing is still trying to find a way to make sure that it is not going to put us in a financial bind if we do. One of the questions is if this is going to be a pay raise, will we be able to maintain it going forward? And what would we have to do to be able to do that? What I have urged the council to do is wait until we have a CFO and even better, a COO in place where we can get our finances. We're working hard to get them in order. And I think we will have some answers hopefully in the not too distant future once we get those positions filled, but there's a good chance that they will not be filled until later into February. We are also still have not turned in all of our information for our 2020 audit, which is a priority. So considering all these things, it just seems that it's prudent that we not rush into making decisions about the money that we have in the CARES Fund. Again, talked to the council about the fact that there are a lot of needs within the city. We have departments that don't have all the proper equipment that they need, from the fire department to the police department to public works. We have major maintenance issues that we're facing in our buildings. We have offices that have constant leaks in them. And so again, I think that everybody in the council is trying to make the best decisions on this, but I think these are not easy decisions. So I'm not going to back away from the fact that I believe we should walk very lightly on this, because it's unusual for the city to have a CARES fund like this where you have $500,000 in it, and we just need to make sure we're spending it in the most wise way. That has no indication. I don't mean for this to sound like it is not a priority to give employees raises, because it is. It's also important that we do it fairly across the board. And there are just so many unknowns at this point, is why I'm cautioning the council not to push this through until the city is in a better financial place.
Could I add one thing?
Yes, and yes, please.
I forgot to mention, dealing with the Woodies on the water property. That is under the jurisdiction of the Lowndes County Port, and the property, the dirt itself, is owned by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. So we will need both Port and Corps approval. I've talked to Will Sanders of the Port Authority, as well as the Port Authority lawyer John Kroll, as well as Kevin McCauley of the Corps of Engineers. And I've been given some assurances it probably won't be a problem, but it hasn't been officially approved, and that's a hurdle we'll have to get over.
Thanks, Jeff.
Yes, sir.
Yes, I meant to mention that too. I'm glad you did.
On the issue of the pay raises, why do you think there's such a disconnect between the council wanting to kind of rush into this and just go ahead and give the raises instead of waiting to get the books in order?
That's a very good question.
Can you repeat the question, Mayor?
He basically, and you tell me if I'm not summarizing this right, he was asking why do I think there is such a disconnect between the council and their wanting to, you used the word rush, I believe, didn't you, into giving these raises without making sure that the financial house is in order. Is that basically it? That's a very good question. You know, we discussed that some last night. Councilwoman Stewart brought that, was very, straightforward in wanting to know why we can't answer all these questions directly. Well, I think we've answered them fairly directly as we can. I would hope that the council would, appreciate professionals like our city attorney, our HR director, who trust me, like I feel like I do, that we want to make this happen, but we just need to be very careful doing this in a proper way for the city. I think they, again, I don't think anybody on the council is doing this in a negative way. I believe they wholeheartedly feel that a raise to our employees is long overdue, and I would agree with that. Where we differ is how we get to that point. I think that it is only fair for our employees that we make sure we do this in a way that we can sustain it. And right now, we don't know that we can. We also, they have mentioned that other communities have used money like this for raises. I would argue that some of the communities that have done this are probably in a better financial situation than we are right now. And we, the accounting for municipalities is the average person, it's difficult to understand all the ins and outs of the budgeting process, the reconciling of funds, how payroll is handled. And so that's why I think it's critical. I think the more pressing issue is that we find the right people for the COO position and the CFO position. We're in the process of going through those applications now. We had very good applicants in the CFO and the IT position, but we were a little weak in the COO position. I think it's critical that we get those positions right. And then I think once that we do, we can come back with some solid information on when it would be good for the city. Say again to all the employees that we wholeheartedly want to do. And let me stress this too, because it's popular within the media sometimes or in the community to try to think that there's a fraction between the mayor and the council or particular members of the council and others. That's not the case. We don't always agree, but I think that everybody is trying to get to the right place. The council members will have to speak for themselves as to the ones who want to move forward on this and those who don't. At this time, I think last night the message was, as soon as we have people in place that can give us the information that we need to make a good decision on this, then we will.
I got a question saying, are there any citizens on the interview committee, or how will it do? We had somebody wanted to volunteer, how will it become public at the end, the interviews for these?
Yeah, well, you know, we're going through this process. You know, many of the people who are applying for these positions have jobs already, and they might not want their current employer to know that they've applied. So we try to be very careful in how we handle this. All meetings like this that we have within the council for hiring are public meetings. However, obviously, we have to go into executive session to talk about some of these issues. The council voted back in October to establish this hiring committee, which is not unusual for the city to use a hiring committee in this place. It's made up right now of, I'm on it, Ms. Pat, our HR director, is on it, Councilman Beard, Councilman Green, Councilwoman DeChico, and Stewart, yes, Councilwoman Stewart too, thank you, Pat, are all on the committee. And we are working quite well together on this. In the last meeting that we had, it was brought up that we had talked about having the finalists interview before the city council. Well, there is some concern within that committee whether that's the proper way, and I almost say that it's a concern of all the committee, whether that is the actual way we will do it in the end. So there'll still be some more discussion on it. However, the council had voted in the past, in October, I believe this is correct, that the finalists would come before the council to interview and the public could be involved. There is, you know, like I said, concern about that. Could potentially cost us. There may be some candidates who would not be willing to do that. So we're gonna look at that as we move forward and keep you abreast of where we are on it.
Yeah, I've got one more question. If the council proceeds with these raises before the CFO is hired and before all the books are reconciled and stuff, how much of a setback or a challenge will that be to you guys in your effort to try to figure out what's going on financially?
How much of a setback will it be?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, my biggest concern with it is it the best use of that money? And how are we in a position right now in our finance and administration office we have very good people working with us on the interim basis. But as Ms. Mitchell pointed out last night, if we move forward before we have, you know, a full staff up here and people who are fully qualified in helping us make these assessments, it could be an issue. I mean, you know, when you're not sure about your numbers completely in your budgeting, you know, there's all kinds of scenarios that could happen. I don't think there's any reason to point out particular ones, but I think there's reason for concern if we do move forward before we're ready. We will do everything we can to make sure it's done properly and in the best interest of the city, but it would be, in my opinion, quite a burden on the city to try to do that.
You got any questions? That's all I got, Mayor.
Do y'all want to add anything to what I said? No? Okay. No.
What was the name of the guy that bought the Woody's property?
Oh, what's the name of the guy that bought the Woody's property?
The guy who bought the Woody's property?
Okay, we have a contract, he's got a due diligence period, so
Okay.
it's not a done deal yet. But, the name of the buyer is Ajax LLC.
Ajax?
Yes, the individual that is the primary, and maybe only, I'm not sure, member of that LLC is Thomas Yenin, G-E-N-I-N.
You want to head and tell everybody thank you?
Oh, are we still on? I'm sorry, guys. I thought we were off. Thank you all for tuning in. If you think of some other questions that you have for me, don't hesitate to reach out to me here at City Hall. Thank you.